วัสดีค่ะสวัสดีค่ะทุกคนยินดีต้อนรับเข้าสู่ฟอรัมแนะแนวของโรงเรียนภาษาไทยวัดพุทธรังสีนะคะในช่วงนี้เราจะขอดำเนินการเป็นภาษาไทยก่อนจากนั้นจะมีภาคภาษาอังกฤษด้วยนะคะก่อนอื่นทางโรงเรียนต้องขอขอบคุณพี่ๆศิษย์เก่าทั้ง4คนนะคะที่ได้สละเวลามาเป็นวิทยากรให้เราสำหรับวันนี้หวังว่าน้องๆจะได้รับประโยชน์แนวทางและแนวคิดนะคะในการเลือกเรียนวิชาในระดับชั้นมัธยมปลายเพื่อเตรียมตัวเข้าสู่มหาวิทยาลัยในช่วงของฟอรัมขอให้ช่วยปิดไมค์นะคะเพื่อไม่ให้มีเสียงรบกวนและหากถ้าใครมีคำถามหรือข้อสงสัยใดๆสามารถเขียนเข้าไปในห้องแชทได้เลยค่ะได้ทั้งภาษาไทยและภาษาอังกฤษขณะนี้เรามีการไลฟ์นะคะลง Facebook ของโรงเรียนและต่อไปจะเป็นการอัดเทปถ้าหากท่านใดไม่ประสงค์ที่จะให้ภาพของท่านปรากฏอยู่ในวิดีโอก็ปิดกล้องได้เลยนะคะส่วนในช่วงหลังของฟอรัมจะเปิดโอกาสให้ถามคำถามนะคะจะเป็นคำถามโดยตรงถึงพี่ๆเฉพาะคนหรือว่าจะถามยกทีมก็ได้พี่ๆของเราพร้อมเสมอและเพื่อไม่ให้เป็นการเสียเวลานะคะขอส่งต่อให้เจก้านะคะโฮสต์คนเก่งของเราดำเนินรายการฟอรัมได้เลยค่ะเจก้าค่ะ
ค่ะขอบคุณนะคะป้าแหม่มแล้วก็โรงเรียนพุทธรังสีไทย Community Language School นะคะที่จัดฟอรัมขึ้นวันนี้นะคะจริงๆแล้วก็ได้มีรุ่นพี่ BTCL Alumni นะคะที่มาจอยเราวันนี้ที่จะพูดคุยเกี่ยวกับ journey แต่ละคนตั้งแต่มหาวิทยาลัยตั้งแต่ขอโทษนะคะ High School ถึงมหาวิทยาลัยนะคะจากนี้ไปหนูอาจจะขอพูดเป็นภาษาอังกฤษเป็นส่วนหลักนะคะ So welcome everybody to the Buttarangsi Thai Community Language Forum. Today we have a panel discussion for our young Thai Australian students to prepare to go to university. And so we'll be talking about our 3 BTCLI alumni's journey through high school to university and to the current job they're in at the moment and what a day-to-day job looks like for our 3 guests. So just quickly to talk about the structure of today. So for the first maybe almost 45 minutes to an hour, we'll just be having conversations with our 3 panelists, and then we'll open up for questions and answer time at any point. So you can type in the chat box if you'd like to ask a question. Otherwise, you can ask us once we open it up to the floor. So I would just like to warmly introduce our 3 panelists for today, our Runpi. So for today we have 3 Runpi who were at the BTCL some overlapping times, many even I think 20 years ago, I think we were there. So it's been quite a long time, and I'm very pleased to have what I call my friends on this panel. So we are very glad to be able to catch up and kind of share our experiences. So to begin, we have Miss Alice Sila, who graduated from the University of New South Wales with a double degree in engineering and science. She's currently lead engineer at Martin Place Station Pedestrian Link Project, building an underground pedestrian tunnel underneath the old Reserve Bank of Australia, which is a marble heritage listed building. P. Alice has 10 years of experience across the mining, construction, and tunnelling industries across New South Wales and Queensland. So please give her a warm welcome. So our second panelist we have today is Mr. Gidipum Tamasirapop, as many of you may know as P. Jojo or Mo Jojo. Jojo graduated from the University of New South Wales with a degree in medical science and science, first class honours, a Doctor of Medicine and Surgery at the Australian National University, and is currently studying a Master of Surgery at the University of Sydney. He is a resident medical doctor at Canberra Hospital and Health Services here in Canberra in the ACT. And Jojo has worked in medical oncology, emergency, and a variety of surgical subspecialties. So please give him a warm welcome too. Our final panelist today is Tanya Newell. Tanya graduated from the University of Sydney with a degree in nursing. She's currently working at Jindabyne Medical Practice. She's currently working in general practice, which is practice nursing and immunization. So I think today she might have been vaccinating many people. And prior to this, she worked in cardiothoracic intensive care, which is intensive care for heart surgery and lung surgery. And me, please give Pitanya a big warm welcome too. And finally, many of you have probably seen me at the Putrangsi Thai Community Language School. My name is Angelica Casado. I graduated with a law background and finished with a Master of Law and International Development at the University of Sydney, and I'm working here in Canberra for federal government, so I'm a public servant. So today we will talk about our careers, what we're currently doing, a day-to-day job, what it kind of looks like. What does it look like to be an engineer? What does it look like to be a nurse? What does it look like to be a doctor? And what does it look like to be a public servant? We're going to talk about each of our panelists are going to talk about how they got there, the decisions that they made, what they did in high school, and maybe a little, if we have time, we'll talk about our university experience as well. So to begin, I might ask P. Alice, well, I'll ask all of the panelists to briefly introduce themselves again in the way in which they prefer, and kind of just start off by telling us more about yourselves and what your job, your occupation is, and what you do in day to day. So I will ask Pialis if maybe you can start off by telling about yourself and what a day looks like as a lead engineer. So please give Pialis a big warm welcome.
Angelica. Hi everyone. So my name's Alice or Pialis. I was at Budalangsi Thai School around in the 2000s, the late, just before 2000 and going into the early 2000s. So I was fortunate enough to be there while I think all of the panelists were there. So yeah, it was good, like fortunate enough to get to know all of you. At the moment, I am at Martin Place Station as the lead engineer for the pedestrian link, as Angelica said. But previous to this, I started my career in mining. So I've worked in underground coal mines across the east coast between New South Wales and Queensland. Started off as a mining engineer, did a graduate program where I went to a few different mines, and then started as a full-time mining engineer, specializing in mine planning. And then when circumstances changed in my family and I made the decision to move back to Sydney, I moved into tunneling. That's where I started working at North Connects Tunnel, which is open now, which is the link between Sydney to the Newcastle Highway. I worked at Central Station recently. So if you've been near Central Station, there's actually a massive excavation going on around all the existing rail platforms. And that was the excavation for the underground trains that are going in there for the Metrolink. And then currently at Martin Place, where we're excavating a tunnel that will link two different sides of the station. I guess a day in the life of an engineer is different every single day, and I guess that's why I chose to do this profession. There's days where you're down underground, it's very hands-on, you're there lifting tools, you're there lifting materials with the boys underground, you know, excavating at the face, you're coordinating and checking everything underground. And then there's a lot of days where you're spending time in the office, making sure, doing, you know, all the planning, all the resourcing. So going and making sure that the project you're doing is on track, on schedule, you have everything to complete the project, and that you're also always meeting like all the client requirements. So for me, I chose this career, I chose mining because I really wanted to go into engineering, but I wasn't sure which one at first. And the reason I picked mining was because for me, for my personal attributes, I guess. I really wanted to do something that was a mixture of technical work, but also hands-on. I'm not someone who likes to sit at a desk all day, and some people do, and that's great too. But for me, I needed to do some of that, but also get my hands dirty underground as well. And I found that a career in mining or like construction and tunneling was exactly what I wanted to do. And again, really important that you find sort of a career path that you actually think you'll enjoy, because you'll stick to it and you'll want to be there. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Peerless. That's wonderful. And if any, if any students in high school at the moment have any questions for Peerless, please write them down, or you can write it in the chat. You might have specific questions, and maybe later on, Peerless has time, she can maybe talk about the different kinds of engineers, because there are many. So thank you for that, Peerless.
Thank you.
Now I will ask Modo if he can give us an introduction about himself and a life of a doctor and in his speciality at the moment. Please give him a warm welcome.
Maybe I'll go with Thai first. สวัสดีครับทุกคนชื่อโจ้กิติภูมิธรรมศิรภพนะครับตอนนี้ก็เป็นหมอที่โรงพยาบาลแคนเบอร์ราก็เกิดที่เมืองไทยมาออสเตรเลียกับครอบครัวมีพ่อแม่น้องสาวตั้งแต่ปี1999ก็20กว่าปีมาแล้วและตอนนั้นพ่อแม่ก็คิดว่าโอเคยังไม่รู้ภาษาอังกฤษเลยก็โอเคส่งไปโรงเรียนคุยภาษาอังกฤษแต่บังเอิญกลับด้านกันภาษาไทยแทบหายไปเลยก็มาเรียนภาษาไทยที่โรงเรียนวัดพุทธรังสีนะครับก็ได้เจอกับเพื่อนๆ3คนนี้ซึ่งเราก็ยังเป็นเพื่อนอยู่กันแล้วตอนนี้ก็ทำงานเป็นแพทย์มันก็ยากเหมือนกันแต่ก็ดีรู้สึกดีที่ช่วยเหลือคนไข้ทุกวันนะครับก็เรียนวิทยาศาสตร์การแพทย์มาก่อนที่จะเข้าแพทย์เพราะตอนนั้นคะแนนยังไม่ถึงแต่ไม่ว่าคะแนนจะไม่ถึงเราก็ยังมุ่งมั่นที่จะเป็นหมอนะครับ My name is Kitipum. You can call me Joe. I'm a doctor at the Canberra Hospital in Canberra, Australia's capital. I moved to Australia in 1999 when I was 5 years old with my family, and always wanted to do medicine to become a doctor. I did well in my HSC, but didn't have enough of my ATAR to get into medicine in year 12. So I did medical science first because I thought that was a good foundation to the basic sciences of medicine. And after 3 years, I tried getting into medicine again, failed. So I didn't know what to do. So I started to look into other options. So I did Bachelor of Science Honours, which meant I did a year of research and particularly nanoparticle research, and was able to be published in a highly reputable paper. And after that, I got into medicine at the Australian National University in Canberra, and that's where I have been since. So I've been in Canberra for 6 years now, been a doctor for 2 years. And as P. Angelica has said, I've rotated around different specialties in the hospital, so including cancer medicine, pediatric surgery, emergency medicine, and different types of surgery. And right now I am pursuing a career in surgery. So I am still studying while working and doing a Master's of Surgery through University of Sydney.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dr. Joe, for your introduction and insight in both your life and it was really good. Sorry, the point that you made that I really like the fact that you highlighted that, okay, so you might not have made medicine in your first go in year 12. And I think that's such a really important point to highlight that there are so many different pathways to get into whatever career that you want to. Whether it's, for example, some people might not even be able to make it into university in the first round, but there are so many different pathways out there. If you work hard, if you kind of research and study and have a plan. And I think what Joel really highlights here is that if you work really hard, you persevere and you don't give up, you can be whatever you want to be. So I think that was really good. And thank you, Dr. Joel, for all that you do for society and looking after people. So now our last finalist, Pritanya, please tell us a bit more about yourself. I know many of the parents haven't seen you in a while, so please tell us what you're up to now and a life, you know, what maybe I think today you were telling me you were vaccinating people. So what does that involve? How do you prepare for these things? Tell us all, Tanya. Oh,
sorry. Hadn't unmuted myself. Sawadika. So I'm Tanya. I originally went to BTL school from, I think when I was 5, so 2000 till probably the end of high school. So around same time as Joel, and a few years of Alistair as well. So if you remember me, there's a kid there. Since high school, I decided to go into nursing. So I got into University of Sydney there, and I really enjoyed it. And I've stuck with nursing since then. When I finished, I got a job at Westmead Hospital, and I worked there for the last 5 years. So did a new grad rotation starting in cath labs, so fixing hearts through keyhole surgery in a way, and then going into anesthetics, so assisting doctors and putting people to sleep in surgery. I wanted to do more of my nursing, so I got a job in cardiothoracic intensive care, and I worked there for about 3 years, and that's looking after patients after heart and lung surgery. And I really liked my job there, but I decided to leave and move to Jindabyne and get out of Sydney, which is a big change. And that's probably why none of you have seen me for so long. During that time, I also had a gap 6 months in Canada, which got torn apart due to COVID. So I've been back since then. I got a job in nursing so I could continue on my hobbies, which is in snowboarding and, you know, just being out of the city life. And to get that job, I did a course in immunization nursing, which I thought was going to be really important coming up because, as we know, there's lots of vaccines going around now for COVID-19. So I found it really helpful to get this job that I have now. I've been working in this practice since March, and since then I've been delivering about a couple of thousand of vaccines in the last couple of months. My other jobs are helping out the doctors in my practice with small things like cutting out small lesions and lots of different other things. I really love it there. It's probably one of the best places I've ever worked, and I really enjoy it there. That's
excellent. Thank you, Tanya. What I also kind of want to touch base that Tanya raised, you said that you knew that you wanted to be a nurse before you finished high school. So when did you kind of have that realization, and how did it come about? Was it like, did you watch TV shows and you were like, oh, you know, seeing all the nurses? Was it an interest in the human body? Kind of what was your interest like in nursing, and like at what age did you kind of discover that?
So when I was in high school, when I was in about year 8 or year 9, I started doing surf life saving, and I'm still a member at that club now, about 12 years now, and I would just do volunteer patrols every month there. And I liked that kind of like first response kind of work. And then I started doing lifeguarding while I was at university. And I was like, yeah, this is, or just when I was finishing high school, actually, I really wanted to keep doing that kind of stuff where I was helping people constantly. Yeah, so that's kind of what led me into that direction. Originally I wanted to do physiotherapy, but I kind of knew I wouldn't get the marks for that, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to do that long of trying to get into that course. And I was like, I think nursing's a good idea, and I
Mhm.
decided to stick with that pathway, and I'm don't regret it at all. And nursing, there's so many different opportunities you can use out of it, and I'm really happy with my decision.
Excellent. That's wonderful. I'm going to throw it now to P. Alice. So when did you also had a similar, well, actually you all did. So this question still applies. So P. Alice, can you tell us about when you had that kind of light bulb moment, oh, like I want to be an engineer, and what led you down that pathway too?
I think throughout school, I think early high school, I was probably like any other high school kid, just, doing subjects that I had to do, just going to school and doing what the teachers told you to do. I think it was a bit later on that I was starting to choose subjects and things like that I found that I liked, or I had a good understanding or a better understanding of maths and physics, and even chemistry. So I think I didn't have a picture of the career at that time. I was just looking at what made sense to me and what I found easier or more interesting, things that I like, I'm just the type of person that likes to understand why things work or how things work. And that sort of led me down to thinking that I'd want to be an engineer one day. In terms of specializing, I mean, going to uni before, putting down your preferences, you have to pick what type of engineering. I just remember not really knowing which type of engineer I wanted to be. I went to some careers fairs at the universities, which I know it's very hard now during COVID, but hopefully in a few years when all of you guys need to make that decision, that'll be open again. But that really helped me. They had some engineering days and my school was great enough to send me to some of those. But apart from that, just sort of making sure that I myself went to some careers fairs. And it was actually when I was standing, I stood in the hall where they had all the engineering stands, and I looked around and I had no idea where I wanted to go first or who I wanted to talk to first. And it was literally a lecturer from the School of Mining came up to me. He said, "Oh, what's your name? Come over here, I'll talk to you about mining." And that's honestly how, it became what I wanted to do. Like he showed me what there was and what's important to me, I guess, and something that I stand quite highly for is that there's so many careers out there, so particularly in engineering, that are so male dominated. And it has been just because of that. That's how traditionally it has been, but there is literally nothing stopping females from getting into it now. There's nothing at all. And if anything, like there's a lot of great mentors on the way that mean that, us females can work and live and succeed in a boys' world, so yeah.
That's very cool. And I like that you point out that, females, we're not limited now. Previously we were, but now hopefully we hope to see that you will become, a female mentor for the future generations of engineers to come, because I think you're very fitting for the role. I'll pass it on to Jo, if you can tell us about when you kind of really wanted to be a doctor, and at what age, and maybe you can also then start to tell us about like your journey to become a doctor as well.
I remember specifically when I decided to become a doctor, but it was definitely at a very young age. In primary school, I was watching RPA weekly and watching documentaries on SBS when they're showing the anatomy of the body, how the body works, and that just fascinated me. I've always been interested in science because it made sense to me. But also a part of me is the creative side, the arts, music. It's not just about the sciences. So when I went through school, there was always that thought, yes, medicine, but I didn't always have it at the forefront. It was always at the back of my mind, but I just went along like what Pia Liz said. I just did school because it was school. Everyone does school. And I think different factors, people just encourage you to do different things. Opportunities arise and you just take those opportunities when they do come about. In high school, I did go along the path of yes, physics, chemistry, mathematics, did extension 1 and 2. And there's a compulsory English aspect as well, which at the time I really hated, because it was just reading novels and writing essays about them. And I'm like, why? What's the purpose of this? Whereas in the sciences, I'm like, okay, this chemical mixed with this chemical, you produce something, it's practical, you can use it. But looking back now, yes, the sciences were helpful, but I think English was one of the crucial subjects, because nowadays, when I do my work, when I'm continuing my studies in the Master of Surgery, it's all about communication. Whether it's speaking, when you're doing speeches in your assignments, or writing essays, it's not just about the novels or the text you're reading, but it's the concepts you get. So those concepts for me was how to formulate an argument and communicate that to a wider audience through writing. That's what I got from English, and that's what I want to give everyone here today, that don't think English is just some boring subject, but it's very, very useful. So yeah, I did my HSC, got a good mark, not good enough for medicine. Then I did, as I said before, medical science at UNSW, and there it was heavily science-based, but nowadays a lot of university courses do have leadership and teamwork units as part of the degree. And I think that's another useful aspect of the modern day university degrees. It's not just about what you know, but how you can manage people, how you can become a good leader, and foster diversity, like what Pia Liz said. Nowadays, we have so many more females in male-dominant jobs, and I think that's a great thing we have today, because everyone brings their own set of abilities, talents, and perspectives into the workplace. So yeah, from that, I got into medicine at ANU, and practicing medicine as a doctor, which I didn't touch before, but in the day of life of a doctor starts very early. I'll wake up maybe 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, head to the hospital, get there at 6:30 in order to prepare for my senior doctors to arrive at 7 o'clock. At 7 o'clock, we would do our ward rounds. So we go around to the different beds where our patients are, make sure things were okay overnight, and talk about what the plan will be for today and going on for the next few days. And after the round, which might be 10 o'clock, we'll start doing the jobs to execute the plan from our seniors. So that would take us to almost the end of the day, around 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. So that might be organizing x-rays, CT scans, making sure if they have a heart problem, we talk to the heart doctors to get their advice. If they have some endocrine or hormone problems like diabetes, and they have a high sugar, then we can talk to the endocrine doctors to come and have a look at the patient. And we talk together to make a plan, and we execute that plan, come back in the afternoon around 5 o'clock, make sure everything's okay, and hand over to the evening or night staff. But as a budding surgical trainee, it's hard to get time in theatre just in the normal day. So sometimes we'll have to do extra shifts in order to have experience in the operating theater. So like Tanya was working in theaters as a theater nurse and anesthetic nurse. We would be there working in a team, assisting the surgeon or the registrars with the surgery and learning from experience there. Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. It's a busy day, and I presume during COVID, it's made it a little bit more chaotic for all healthcare professionals. I kind of want to take us back because I know that there might be some students in the crowd that are in high school at the moment, and they might be making a decision about what subjects to study. And you kind of both touched upon, well, both Phyllis and Joe in particular touched on, studying the sciences. And you said that you chose these because they kind of made more sense to you. You were probably more naturally gifted along these sides to these subjects. Was that the primary reason? So I'll generalize the question as in, did you choose your subjects based on your interest? What made sense to you naturally, so you were more academically gifted towards? Or did you choose subjects that kind of were linked to your next goal? So for example, both in medical science and engineering, and probably also in nursing too, you have, well, at least for the engineering part, physics kind of makes sense to study if that's the trajectory that you're going for. So if, you can maybe talk more about like when you were going to make that decision, what were you thinking about? Were you also thinking, was scaling an issue? They say that some subjects, the more harder and complex they are, the more they scale and help you with your HSC ATAR mark. Were they things that you were thinking about? Or was it just more, I'm interested in this, I'm good at this, for example, the arts, I love art, I'm going to do art, so I should make that decision, instead of being like, oh, but I might want to be a pharmacist, so should I study chemistry? Long-winded question, but why did you choose the subjects that you did? I'm going to flick back to Tanya, just to give us some thoughts about how you made that decision.
So I remember when I was choosing, I really liked science, and I think we all did physics by the sounds of things. So I also picked physics and chemistry, and I was a bit turned off biology, which didn't really matter in the end because I learned it all again at uni. But I was really drawn to those two particular subjects. I know my parents really wanted me to do advanced English and advanced maths, and I struggled a lot with both of those, and I ended up dropping down. And it was funny, as soon as I dropped down to the standard English and general maths, I got really, really high marks, got band 6 for maths, and I felt a lot better, and actually helped with my physics and chemistry humongously. Like, it really, really helped, and I just felt a bit more comfortable having a subject where I felt more comfortable in, instead of one that I didn't know that I don't think I would excel at. Another part of that was the teachers, and teaching those two particular subjects weren't working for me as well, and the 2 new teachers I got instead really, really helped my learning and helped me understand things a lot better. So I think that did help a lot. So I can't remember what else I did at school. Oh, I did PDHP too, because I was interested in the human body, and I really enjoyed doing that as well. And because I went to a Catholic school, I had to do studies of religion 1. And I definitely struggled with that because I'm not super religious and definitely not Christian at all. And that was a bit of a, it was good to learn because you got to learn different religions and open my eyes up. But like Joe, didn't really like writing essays and English and stuff like that. And I still struggled. But it was okay in the end. I got a tutor, and I actually got much higher marks than I expected for both those subjects. And I remember my religion teacher came up to me at school after exams and was like, you did really well, and I'm really proud of you of how far you come in that subject. Like, didn't expect that from you at all. And I was like, oh, whoops. But yeah, I think I picked those subjects more because I really like science, and I still love science to this day, hence nursing, medicine. And I kind of thought, yeah, physics and chemistry could scale me better. And I knew that I had two subjects that potentially wouldn't scale me as high. And I thought that might help me out a little bit. And I think it did. One thing I do think back on high school is I wish I did art, because I love art now as an adult. And I didn't do art in year 9 and 10, and I love painting now. And I find it really funny that after school you might pick up new things that you love in life and you might have more time for, or, you know, be able to do more with. So I find that really funny. And I think with high school, teachers matter a lot. Definitely matters in what's the word, encouraging you and making you feel, you know, like you want to do it. Yeah, I think that's a really, really big important thing, especially in high school. Yeah, having the right teachers to influence you in the right direction and help you towards what you want to do.
That's wonderful. I think you really touched on a great point there, Tanya, where you kind of made the decision where you were like, okay, these subjects don't quite work for me. So you feeling confident in your decision, I think, is something really important. And I think students nowadays, they're like, no, like, you know, sometimes it could be parental pressures that we have, you know, our parents like, oh, like, you know, just keep going, you know, try and stick at it a bit more. But I think we need to have confidence in ourselves, no matter how old we are, even if we're still, you know, we're 13, 14, 15, 16, these years are critical years, and we really need to feel confident in our abilities. And I think you said the fact that you end up excelling much more, that probably even boosted your confidence, like overall,
100%.
and helped you to perform better in all your other subjects.
Yeah.
I think it's a really important point.
I remember one time in advanced maths, I was failing. I was getting like 30, 40%. I was really ashamed and embarrassed, and I really, really didn't enjoy it at all. Swapped over to general maths, 90, 95% in most tests. I was like, why wasn't I doing this from the beginning?
Yeah.
And I just felt comfortable, and I didn't have to stress so much about one subject that I just knew I wouldn't do good at. And I think it was the right decision. Yeah.
Oh, that's excellent. I'm going to hand it over to Alice. Maybe you can tell us a bit more about your decision, or whether you also had similar experiences. Did you choose subjects because, you know, you clicked with a teacher really well, they just taught you easily? Why did you pick the subjects that you did?
I think I picked subjects around what I understood and what I liked. I think I did extension 1 maths, I did physics, I did economics, and I actually did music for a bit. It's funny that Tanya touched on like appreciating things later in life, because I'm glad you didn't study art, Tanya, because I had the opposite, where I really love music. Don't study it. If you love it, don't study it, because I hated, like, you know, there's different parts where you do like doing it, but when you're forced to learn about, you know, music from the 20s or something, don't necessarily, you know, piques your interest as much, and you're forced to learn it. But anyway, I did the subjects that I liked, and I think I agree with Tanya in, you know, a lot of times it does, it's heavily impacted on the teachers. I was in a similar situation with economics. We had 2 economics classes. It was graded as well. So you had the first class and the second class, and all really great students, but it was like the top and the second. And I was in the top, and I just felt like I was sort of towards the bottom of that top class. And after a while, I made the decision to go to the teacher and say I want to move to the other class, because I also had friends in the other class as well, but it was that seeing the way they were getting taught it and knowing that teacher's teaching style really suited me a lot more. So I went towards that. But yeah, for me, I guess choosing subjects, it was subjects that I was interested in. I guess luckily the subjects that I was interested in are subjects that were quite a few of the bases for universities, that being maths and physics. Again, though, were they important, physics and maths? Yes, but then I think if you don't study them, and then you decide later on that you want to get into a field that has them as a requirement. I had a lot of friends at university that studied engineering, that didn't do those subjects in school, and they were able to do the bridging courses, and they were able to do that. So like, it's a really big, I feel like it looks like it's a really big decision to choose your subjects, and it's really hard to do when you don't even necessarily know what you want to do yet. One important thing I think that school teaches you to do is to learn, and then learn in university and learn going on when you get older. So it's the way you take on information and the way you're able to apply it. But like in terms of getting in, you still, if you don't have those subjects, it's really not the end of the world yet. You know, it may delay you for 6 months, but in the grand scheme of things, if you're doing what you want to do it, and Jojo is like a perfect example of that. If you end up doing what you want to do, like at least you get there, you know what I mean? It may be the long way, but you might actually learn a lot more on the way.
I just want to add a bit more to what Pierre said about not doing the subjects and then going to a degree or in a field that is very different to what you studied. I think more and more nowadays, different professions want a diverse skill set. So for example, in my field, in medicine, you don't have to do the sciences. Like in Thailand, we have Sai Wit, Sai Sin, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what? Because here we don't have that. Here, a lot of universities encourage people from different fields to come into medicine. I have friends who did medicine with me who were from finance, who did a music degree in the past, who did engineering, and now they're doctors. You don't necessarily have to do the medical sciences as your first degree, is your bachelor's, or do maths and physics, chemistry, biology in high school. Like what Pierre said, you might think it's a very big decision, but in the large scale of things, it is significant, but it's not the be all and end all. So yeah. So
I think
keep that in mind.
And I think you both, PLS and Joel, both raised really interesting and important points that there are so many different pathways. If you don't get into, the first course of choice, it's okay. There are so many pathways. If you don't get into university, you can go through TAFE. TAFE also has bridging courses, as both PLS and Tanya mentioned. Tanya was like, yes, bridging courses. There are so many options and pathways that connect you to where you want to get to. And all you need to do is just keep your eyes and ears open, research about it. But yeah, I think I remember being in high school, and the day that everyone got their ATAR or HSC, everyone, you had people crying. I think I remember there was someone who got 99.9. I think she may have shed a few tears because she didn't get the top mark. So I think that what I really would like to stress is having perspective, that there is always going to be a way if you persevere. You might need to ask a few people some questions. PLS mentioned going to the career uni open days, career fairs. Need to ask people questions to find out, okay, if I don't make it, what is my backup plan? I think always just having a plan. What I would really like to stress to all the Nong all the students out there is the most important thing is to keep doing something. Whether you go to TAFE, whether you go to a college, there are so many colleges out there now. You've got the Raffles, fashion college, you've got business colleges, like university, even though today is a session about, preparing for university, like if you don't get there the first time, it's okay. There's still time. BLS touched, it might be a little bit longer, but all these experiences are so important. You'll meet new people. You might, try something, as a pathway, but then you end up loving it. So you end up staying there. And everything is a part of your growth journey. And everyone here has clearly demonstrated that, okay, we might have thought, like, this is our dream, and maybe things happen in life. We might not get the mark we want straight up, but you work hard to ensure that you can transfer at some point. So don't give up. There are many, many pathways. And I think also parents also need to take that, okay, my child didn't get in the first time. That's okay. Like, just keep doing something. Don't sit on the couch and not do anything at all, because then nothing will absolutely happen. So keep working towards that goal. I think that's why goal setting, that, you know, everyone talks about goal setting, and just knowing where you want to be. And if you don't know exactly, that is okay as well. I think maybe I'll hand over to any of our panelists in terms of identifying. So if someone doesn't know what they want to be, what should they do? So I don't know, from my perspective, I think that people should follow what they love first if they don't know what that end goal is. So I might throw it over to any panelists who might have any tips, you know, or advice that you can give to get to like that final goal.
I think it's important to recognize the subjects that you want to study and think about, like, imagine yourself in a profession. If you don't know what you think you want to be yet, think about the subjects that you are studying and think about whether you would enjoy studying it later on. It's also, I think it's also good to study something that, even if you may not think that you will want to pursue a career in, some advice I got when I was younger was, if you're interested in something, always study it as an undergrad, because you'll probably never come back and do it again. And that's the reason why I ended up doing my double degree. I studied psychology as well. Never thought about pursuing a career in that, never thought about going down that field, but it was just something that I'd always been interested in. I'd always been interested in how people interact, how the brain works, how that impacts everything we do. And I honestly did not think that it would mean anything in my career. It was an extra year of study for me, only one, given that I have a whole nother bachelor's degree for it, because the subjects sort of overlapped with engineering. But I have no regrets over it. And surprisingly, it's something that I do use a lot now. I didn't think about it at the time. It was just an interest. But again, like, study something you are interested in, study something that you want to study. And even when you get to university and you do start studying it, you may find that you don't want to do that. You might find that you love it. You may find that you might not want to do it. And there's always time to make changes, you know. It's always something that it's just, you just go through it and adapt to what is presented in front of you, what you want to and don't want to do. And yeah, it's all about adapting to the changing circumstances, I guess.
Excellent. Speaking about, you know, being able to adapt, and I just want to touch also back on what Joe said about, you know, learning and how you can apply learning. We continue to learn. I'm sure all of us here on the panel, whenever we start a new job, we need to learn, you know, what the job is about. We need to learn, you know, the technicalities behind it. What I wanted to ask, maybe I'll hand this over to Joel, like, maybe if you have some kind of learning or study tips. Now you're still currently studying, you're doing a master in surgery. So what kind of study tips do you have? What about, like, you know, what helps you concentrate? You know, if you're getting distracted, now you're also like a student, everything is online. Whereas when we were at university, we both had to go in, you know, face-to-face. We had tutorials face-to-face. We had lectures face-to-face. So what tips can you give to students who are living the online world?
I think you need a balanced lifestyle. Even though you're studying a course, studying subjects, don't forget you are a human being. You're not a studying machine. So you still need to go outside as per the restrictions currently. But go outside, exercise, eat well. Now, earlier this year, I just started my master's in February, and I was also studying for a surgical exam in June, and I was very stressed. And I went to temples occasionally. And I was saying to หลวงพ่อ at Wat Thamatharo, หลวงพ่อ ตอนนี้ผมเรียนหนักมากไม่รู้จะไหวไหมไม่รู้ว่าจะผ่านไหมโจ calm down นั่งสมาธิถ้าทำสมาธิได้ทำทุกอย่างได้ and then okay I took that on so what if anyone didn't understand that was concentrate meditate and if you have those skills of concentration you can accomplish anything in the world and I really took that on I reflected on that and thinking back that was what I was doing in the past when I was younger in high school how I was studying I wasn't studying 24/7 I was still playing music I was still going to Thai school I was still performing at Thai events dancing playing Thai music I still have Lanat here see but you don't forget your goal even though you're doing all those extracurricular activities and it reminded me that yes I should meditate and I was meditating that's why I wake up at 4:30 wake up at 4:30 wash my face brush my teeth meditate half an hour and then start eating get ready get changed go to work come back from work eat just do a bit of study and before bed meditate again it gives this routine's important but also gets your mind focused on what needs to be done and clears your mind because there's so many things happening you guys might be in high school now you think life is so stressful with subjects and stuff I warn you it will get even more stressful you will have families to look after you have your work colleagues you have dramas at work that you bring back home and you might be in tears you might be so frustrated you have bills to pay you have to go shopping like what my parents used to do that I have to cook for myself now so there's so many things that so many responsibilities and duties you have to do later on that you don't see now that you don't expect I think you have to focus on what you need to do and have a clear mind. Be mindful.
I think that's really important. Thank you for sharing that. I think also in our COVID times, we really, now we're spending time with our families where, we're basically confined to our homes. And so I think that as many practices as we can include that help us calm down, like meditation or going on walks as per COVID restrictions, take the time to take care of yourself and your mental well-being. It's equally as important, to just take care of your physical well-being as well. But Joe did mention about extracurricular activities and Thai school. So I'm going to pass it over to Tanya to share how learning Thai has have you been able to use it in your day-to-day work? Has Thai been useful? Share some of your insight and I guess the value of learning Thai as well in your practice.
Yeah, so I don't get to use Thai as often as maybe in different areas in Sydney, for example, but I did have a few patients here and there that only spoke Thai and no English, and I would have to go in there and communicate with them. And sometimes it was really funny because my mum, who is a Thai interpreter, as you guys know, had to get called into my ward to interpret for a patient. And I was like, hey, mum. I just find that was really funny because legally I can't do a lot of things, like I can't do consent, but she can. So she would get called in for that. So it was good to see mum at work. And I also worked with another Thai colleague who I've known through mum since I was about 7 years old. So it was really nice to have that connection of culture still there at work. And she would always bring mum some Thai food for me to take home. So that was a nice little thing that I got out of that. in Jindabyne, there's actually quite a few Thai people down here. So yeah, one of them, she knows my boyfriend more than me, and then she's met me and she's just so stoked that I'm Thai. And because I play rugby as well, so to her kids, she'll be screaming on the sideline, go Tanya, go Tanya. And I just like having that little small connection to my culture, even though I'm in a country town full of, you know, people from everywhere. That doesn't seem to be as multicultural as Sydney, but still has some connection to culture there. So that's a good thing about it, I think. Yeah.
That's wonderful. And you and your mother, like, so you were you ever in the same room together? Or was she just in the ward? Like,
I remember that day, in particular, the lady wasn't my patient, but was my friend's patient. So my mum was in there, and then I would bring my mum out to the tea room after, and everyone sat down with her and made her a cup of coffee. And I remember that day I was having a bad day, and it was really funny to have her there just to cheer me up.
Oh,
Hi, Mum.
That's beautiful. And I guess I'll ask Joel, have you been able to use Thai with patients here in Canberra? I definitely know one example, but if you can share too, that would be great.
Yeah, so definitely have patients who come in and I look at their name and say, oh, คนไทยหรือเปล่าครับ ใช่ค่ะ It just brings this extra warmth into the bedside, knowing that their doctor is Thai, they can communicate in their own language, that they're being understood, that whatever they're saying is not just being thrown out the window, that people do listen to them. So it is very rewarding to use Thai in that setting. We won't touch on that case.
Okay.
But also wherever you are, whatever field you're in, don't forget you're part of the Thai community, and you can be part of it anywhere. Tanya in Jindabyne, myself in Canberra. So we have a good and strong Thai community here, just helping out with temple events, community events. It just brings a sense of community and belonging, because I just want to reiterate this point that we are human beings. We are social beings. We're social animals. We have to stick together. We work together. We need to communicate together. And language is a big part of that. And having more than one language to talk to other people is a very good talent, a very good skill. And I guess this is for university, for jobs in the future. I think it really helps to get jobs because it shows your diversity. A lot of people might see you as an Asian and just brush you off as another Asian. But then when you say you're Thai, they take more interest in you because there's a different relationship between Farang and Thai people, between Australians and Thais. It's a very strong relationship. When they hear that you're Thai, they're more interested. Like, oh, I've been to Thailand. I love Tom Yum Kung. I love Pad Thai. Like, oh, really? Me too. I can cook this. Blah, blah. And you just bond over that culture. And that can give you an advantage over other people. Not to say that you take advantage over other people, but it gives you that better edge when you're looking for different opportunities in the workplace or in the community.
Thank you. I also want to ask Alice, have you used Thai when you were out in the mining fields or in like your current workplace? Has there ever been an opportunity to use Thai? Or if not, more broadly, how has that kind of helped you find opportunities?
Unfortunately not. I've been out in rural towns, very, very small towns where they haven't even come across many Asian people, I guess. So being quite minority in my field. Some people have never had Asians live in their town, in mining towns, in whatever. So, but I guess like you're right, like what Jojo said was right. Like a lot of people do recognize Thai people, and Thai people are renowned around the world for being so warm, and being so inviting and like having such warm personalities. And I truly do think that shows. And I think that when you do talk, like tell someone you're Thai, like Joel was saying, like people do love Thailand. Everyone knows about Thailand now. Everyone's been there now. And if they they haven't been there, then their friend has, and it is all about the Thai people, and people always talk about how they know lovely Thai people, or they love Thai food, or, everything about it. You have friends that are like, oh, can you teach me how to cook this? And then I tell them my parents had a restaurant, so I can't cook.
Yeah.
But but yeah, like I guess I haven't been able to use it, but I definitely think that there's a very big side of the culture that is instilled in all of us Thai people that is shown, and that people can see as soon as you say that you're Thai.
Very
Would
much
you tell? Oh,
sorry, Tanya. Go, Tanya.
Would you tell your friends that the restaurant's named after you as well?
Oh, they know it. They've been there. I can cook other food, just so everyone knows. I just don't cook Thai food.
Funny.
That's really, yes, and we had an Alice Thai restaurant here in Canberra too.
Yes, we did.
Yes.
Famous.
Yes, Alice is very famous everywhere. I think now is a great opportunity for us to open it up to the floor for any students that want to ask us, or any parents ถ้าผู้ปกครองท่านใดจะมีคำถามให้พี่ๆนะคะก็อันมิวต์ตัวเองนะคะแล้วก็ถามได้เลยนะคะถ้าจะถามคนใดคนหนึ่งก็ได้เช่นกันนะคะก็เปิดให้ทุกคนถ้าใครมีคำถามถ้าไม่มีก็เราจะคุยกันต่อค่ะแต่เปิดopen the floor for any questions
เดี๋ยวขออนุญาตถามจากบางคนที่ในเฟซแล้วก็ที่มีกระซิบเข้ามานะคะอาจจะถามอลิสนะคะ Do you have any problems in getting into other males colleague tradies to accept and respect you in being an engineer?
To be completely honest, not really. I think a lot of people would expect for me to say yes, but when it comes to being an engineer and doing a lot of male-dominated tasks, I think you just have to show that you're there to do the work. There's some people that give females a bad reputation, that say that people just want to have it easy and get a good job and whatever, and then there's the other side of things, and I think you've just got to show that you're there to do the work, and that's part of me getting my hands dirty. I work with a lot of males. I have worked where I've had a team of 16 engineers under me, all reporting to me, and only one of those was female. But gaining the respect of everyone is about showing what you can do, whether you're male or female, you know what I mean? And it's all about how well, again, what Joel said about communication, about English, about whatever, and about how to understand people and how to communicate to people. Whether they're male or female, and sometimes you do speak to males in a different way to get them to understand, but I think the main part for me was making sure people know that I'm there to do the hard yards, to do the hard work, to do what everyone wants to do. I'm not going to step back because I'm female. I'm going to do what everyone else is doing, regardless of whether it is dirty, sweaty, grimy, whatever. But then also, I think what's been important for me being female in this industry, everywhere I've gone, I think I've been lucky enough to have a really great mentor. And to be honest, they've all been male. They've all been people that have sort of stepped in and become like a father figure. And that's what some people, I guess, don't really see in females entering male-dominated industries, is that a lot of older guys, they have daughters, so they actually take a lot of females under their wing because they want you to succeed, because they want to be able to say that their daughter can enter this field as well and also succeed. So yeah, I think no matter whether you're male or female, I think that mentoring side of wherever you go is really, really important as well, and helps with your confidence, helps with keeping you on track. If you do have any issues, I've had issues before with other people. I don't know. I wouldn't say they're down to me being female. It's always, something that's going to happen in the workplace, but it's important to me and my integrity, I guess, that I don't bring my gender into it. And I stand up for who I am as a person, not just as a female. That being said, I do stand strongly for females to enter any field that they want to do, whatever they want, because we do bring quite a different view into the workplace. One of my bosses sat us down one day and said, "Oh, in mining, what changes do you think would happen if we had a 50-50 ratio of females to males?" And a lot of the things that came up, like, you'd have to have things that were lighter to lift because females can't carry as much. People would probably be more polite in the workplace. There'd be a lot more of this, a lot more of that. And then everyone sort of sat around and said, actually, they're all good things. They're all great things. Why wouldn't you make things easier? Why wouldn't you reduce the risk of injuries in the workplace? Why wouldn't you look for a more positive workplace? So, yeah, I think being female in the workplace is great, and being in these industries is great, bringing what you can and not to be scared by that, the male-dominated jobs and the stigmas around being in those industries, I guess.
Thank you very much. The next question would be, there's someone asked in Facebook, is university or TEF is better? Like you study diploma or you go for a degree? And I think there's a specific question for you, Alice, as well, that is there any recommendation if you want to study software engineering, like in Australia? So once you finish, maybe anyone can answer to this question. That would be great. Thank you.
I think in terms of engineering and studying engineering, I think we're fortunate in Australia to have a lot of great universities. In Sydney alone, we have fantastic universities, especially in engineering. I went to the University of New South Wales because it had a very good reputation for engineering. It ranks quite highly in the world. It also has a very lovely campus. I think you'd agree, Joel, and that's probably one of the reasons why I chose it, because I could see myself physically being there every day. But in terms of software engineering, I guess I can't give you a specific one, but I think software engineering is becoming so predominant in the world. We're having this meeting on Zoom at the moment, like software is huge at the moment. So I think it's definitely a field that all universities are focusing on. I think Sydney University and, University of New South Wales, again, UTS, is all around Sydney and even in Canberra. Canberra's a great university as well. I think you can get into any of them and still succeed no matter which university you go to. And there's a lot being done, I guess, to start standardizing a lot of the engineering fields across Australia. But in terms of trying to get in via TAFE or via universities, I think it all depends on what field you're trying to get into and what jobs you're getting into. Because again, as Joel was saying before, people are interested in getting a diverse field, diverse backgrounds, because you're not going to get a lot of diversity now just from having everyone from one university go to work at a certain place. You're going to have everyone with one background, so everyone's looking everywhere, whether it's a university background or a TAFE background, or someone who's just had a lot more practical time in any field, if that makes any sense.
I think TAFE is a really, really good place to have a look into, because they have such a big variety of different, career opportunities you can pick from. Like, it doesn't have to just be university. You don't just have to go to uni. You can always look at other aspect. My boyfriend, he wants to get into national parks, so he's thinking of doing I think a diploma in certificate in environmental conservation. So that's one opportunity that you can go into and still get an amazing job out of it. So it doesn't just, you know, end at university. It doesn't always just end at TAFE either. There's lots of different things you can explore and still find the career pathway that you want to do.
Thank you. Okay, maybe I'll just go to the next question. Someone would want me to ask in Thai, so if anyone are confident to answer in Thai, that would be great. สำหรับคนที่เลือกเรียนไปแล้วแต่มารู้ทีหลังว่าน่าจะเรียนอย่างอื่นจะมีข้อแนะนำอะไรยังไงบ้างคะ
We'll ask Joe. Would you like to answer that?
Thank you.
เริ่มเรียนแล้วคิดออกได้ว่าอยากไปสาขาอื่นใช่ไหมครับก็เราก็ต้องดูว่าที่เราเรียนมาเราถึงระดับไหนแล้วมันจะคุ้มไหมถ้าเราจะเปลี่ยนเลยหรือว่าเหมือนที่พี่อลิสบอกบางทีเราอาจจะเรียนต่อไปให้จนจบแล้วมันจะเป็นสกิลมันจะเป็นพื้นฐานในอนาคตที่จะเสริมสร้างวิชาเสริมสร้างความรู้ให้กับเราได้ในอนาคตไม่ว่าจะไปด้านไหนไปสาขาไหนความรู้มันก็ดีหมดนะครับผมก็จะสนับสนุนให้จบก่อนแล้วค่อยไปแต่ถ้ารู้สึกว่าอึดอัดคือแบบเรียนแล้วแบบไม่ได้เลยคือปวดหัวจะขยี้หัวแบบทนไม่ไหวแล้วก็ต้องยอมก็ต้องออกไปเพราะว่าตอนนี้มันมีแต่ทุกข์มันก็ต้องดูแต่ละเคสไปนะครับว่าตัวเองอยู่ระดับไหนความรู้สึกเป็นไงอยากไปทำงานด้านไหนครับ
ค่ะ Next, I would like to ask any one of you if you can answer. If any one of you work while you were studying, and how did you manage your time? How do you juggling working while studying? Anyone?
I worked at the restaurant all the time, actually. A lot of days. ตอนเรียนอลิสก็ทำงานที่ร้านอาหารนะคะร้านอาหารพ่อแม่ถ้าแบบ in terms of juggling I guess it's all about balance. It's all about making sure no matter where you work. I'm fortunate enough to work in my parents' restaurant, so obviously my employers had to be flexible. But I guess like when things do come up and even now, even in the position that I'm in now, we have young undergraduate engineers working for us. It's just about communication. It's about letting your employers know, letting your team know when things are coming up, when important exams are coming up, if your workload has increased, to be able to balance that. But yeah, set yourself realistic goals. Be realistic about how much time you need for your university studies. How much time, obviously, it's all different because it's online now, but whereas before it was what hours you're at university, but also how much time you need outside of university, and then you have to work your jobs around that and prioritize university.
Okay, thank you. There's a question in Zoom right now from Shai. Shai asks, can you talk about the importance of communication with peers and teachers? Please, anyone?
I guess for me, in terms of being at school or in the workplace, I think in school, the way I got through a lot of university, I went through I studied mining engineering, which was a very small course, a cohort. There was a class of 30 of us. It was like family, but we all got through together by, you know, sharing our resources and studying and learning together. when somebody struggled, we'd just go to a friend or go to whatever. We had our little groups that we helped study with. So I think the communication really helped me actually get through university, like communication with my peers and everything. Communication with teachers is also really, really important. We had, because our school of mining was so small, we actually had our lecturers on Facebook. And I just remember back in the day when people used to write on walls, I remember writing on my wall one day and writing, oh, this is such a crazy week. I've got 2 exams this week and 3 assignments due. And one of my lecturers saw it. He came up to me and he said, oh, we didn't realize that you guys had this much load. I'm going to extend the due date for this assignment to next week. So like, again, it's really important to communicate with your peers and to your teachers. You know, sometimes you do different course loads and you have different subjects and they don't always know what overlaps and what doesn't. And as soon as they know, they're more than like willing to accommodate to make sure that you can do the best that you can do. You know what I mean? In terms of being in the workplace, I think all 4 of us really would agree that the communication between ourselves and our colleagues and other stakeholders and everyone else is quite critical to being able to be successful at our jobs. There's a lot of times that, you know, you never, no matter what you do, you never work by yourself these days. You have a team. So no matter whether it's communicating to delegate or working within your own team now, or I'm sure Tanya has to do a lot of handovers to other people and communicate forward to make sure the message and every critical information is being, you know, passed on. It's so essential to everything that we do these days to be able to communicate and communicate well.
Thank you. Next one ขอสอบถามคุณโจแล้วกันนะคะคิดว่าชื่อเสียงของมหาวิทยาลัยมีความสำคัญต่อการหางานทำเมื่อเรียนจบไหมคะอันนี้จากคุณวัชรีค่ะ
สวัสดีครับป้าจี๊ด
ค่ะ
ก็มันก็แล้วแต่บุคคลนะครับแต่ส่วนมากในเวลานี้ใน modern day เราก็ไม่ดูว่ามหาลัยนี้ดีกว่ามหาลัยนู้นเปล่าอยู่จบจากมหาลัยไหนเขาดูที่บุคคลมากกว่าว่าอยู่มีสกิลอะไรอยู่สื่อสารกับคนได้ดีไหมเขาจะอินเทอร์วิวแล้วเขาก็จะคัดกรองจากอินเทอร์วิวอันนั้นอีกอย่างก็คือCV หรือเรซูเม่ของคุณว่ามาทำอะไรมาก่อนมีประสบการณ์อะไรมีประสบการณ์นอกจากสาขานี้ไหมอย่างเช่นตอนผมอินเทอร์วิวก็เขียนมาเลยว่าก็เคยเป็นผู้ช่วยครูดนตรีไทยที่โรงเรียนแล้วก็แสดงที่งานต่างๆของชุมชนไทยก็ใส่ไปเขาก็รู้ว่าเรามีความสามารถหลากหลายไม่ใช่แค่เชิงการแพทย์แต่ทุกอย่างเลยมันคือฝรั่งเขาจะชอบการสื่อสารมากเพราะมันเป็นอะไรที่ยึดเหนี่ยวทีมเวิร์คของสถานที่ทำงานครับถ้าสื่อสารได้ดีเขาก็โอเคกับอยู่แล้วอยู่อาจจะไม่ต้องทำงานดีที่สุดแต่ถ้าผิดพลาดอะไรในที่ทำงานแล้วอยู่บอกเขาได้ว่าอันนี้เราผิดพลาดไปเขาก็ยอมรับแล้วเขาก็รู้ว่าอยู่เป็นคนที่ดีไม่ปิดบัง
ขอแทรกด้วยได้ไหมคะ
ครับ
ถ้าสมมุติเราในเรซูเม่ถ้าเราใส่ไปว่าเรามีความสัมพันธ์เกี่ยวกับเรื่องวัฒนธรรมไทยเรื่องที่เกี่ยวกับประสบการณ์ของไทยเนี่ยว่าโอกาสที่เราจะได้รับงานทำมันก็จะมีขึ้นมาอีกนะมันคือเด็กพวกเราควรจะต้องใส่ไปและอีกเรื่องหนึ่งที่ป้าถามเพราะว่าอยากจะรู้ว่าสมมุติเวลาตอนเราสอบเอท่าคะแนนเราต่ำๆใช่ไหม เราก็ไปอยู่ที่มันแบบไกลๆหลักแบบไม่ต้องเอท่าแพงนักไม่ใช่แพงเอท่าไม่ต้องสูงนักถูกปะแล้วอย่างเงี้ยมันจะมีผลกับการหางานทำในอนาคตไหมที่ความหมายของป้าคือประมาณนั้นนะโอเคครับ
Hi, Mom.
หรือว่าป้าฟังป้าไม่เข้าใจเข้าใจไหม
อลิสเข้าใจนะคะอลิสว่าการเรียนยูเดี๋ยวนี้เขาก็ standardize หลายอย่างอะค่ะว่าจะมี curriculum ที่เขาจะทำให้คล้ายกันระหว่างยูนี้กับยูนู้นใช่ไหมคะแล้วอลิสว่าเดี๋ยวนี้นะคะเขาดูที่ประสบการณ์มากกว่าเขาอาจจะดูตรงที่เราเรียนใน job แรกของเรานะคะแต่ว่าหลังจากนั้นมันก็เป็นประสบการณ์แล้วถ้าเรามีอย่างอื่นในเรซูเม่มีกิจกรรมไทยมีอะไรมันจะทำให้เราแตกต่างจากคนอื่นนะคะมันก็จะช่วยให้เราแบบว่าถ้าทุกคนจากยูเดียวจากอะไรเหมือนกันน่ะไป apply job เดียวกันน่ะเราต้องมีจุดที่มันจะต่างจากคนอื่นนะคะแล้วเนี่ยคือเป็นจุดดีอะค่ะที่จะลงในเรซูเม่ได้
เดี๋ยวขอต่ออีกนิดนึงจะขอแนะนำว่ามีเพื่อนธัญญาคนหนึ่งไปเรียนที่โรงเรียนไทยไปเรียนรำนะลูกตอนที่เขาสอบเข้ามหาวิทยาลัยพวกแม่ฟังไว้นะคะแล้วเขาก็หาประมาณว่าหา scholarship แล้วเขาก็ได้ scholarship โดยที่ว่าเขาเขียนไว้ว่าเขารำไทยได้นะลูกแล้วเสร็จแล้วประมาณว่าเขาได้ตอนที่เขาได้แล้วเขาตอบไปถามตอนที่จบไปแล้วเขาถามว่าทำไมฉันถึงได้เขาบอกว่า1อยู่เป็นผู้หญิง2อยู่มีการไปมีปฏิสัมพันธ์กับชุมชนอื่นที่ไม่ใช่ตัวเองเพราะว่าตัวเขาเองก็ไม่ใช่คนที่ว่าเป็นอะไรกับไทยซึ่งมันก็เป็นอีกจุดหนึ่งที่การมาเรียนภาษาไทยเนี่ยเรามีโอกาสมากกว่าชาวบ้านเขานิดนึงแค่นั้นแหละป้าอยากจะให้แม่ช่วยกันจำไว้นะลูกบายค่ะไม่เข้าแล้วไม่คุยละ
Is that Erica, Mom? Oh, she's gone. I think it was Erica.
ขอบคุณค่ะโอเคต่อไปมีมาจากคุณอุนะคะคำถามเห็นพี่ๆทุกคนทำงานที่ไกลบ้านกันทั้งนั้นเลยแล้วก็อยากจะทราบว่าคุณพ่อคุณแม่ว่ายังไงกันบ้างไหมที่เราต้องไปทำงานไกลบ้านท่านรู้สึกยังไงบ้าง
ตอนแรกอะค่ะคุณแม่อลิสเนี่ยค่ะร้องไห้ค่ะร้องไห้เลยค่ะตอนที่เลือกไมนิ่งนี่ร้องไห้คนแรกเลยค่ะแต่ว่าหลังจากนั้นก็ภูมิใจตอนนี้อลิสก็ได้ทำงานที่ซิดนีย์อะค่ะตอนแรกไปมัจจี้ไปฮันเตอร์แวลลีย์ไปวูลองกองไปเซ็นทรัลควีนส์แลนด์อะค่ะแต่ตอนนี้ก็ได้กลับมาแต่ว่ามันก็คือประสบการณ์อย่างอื่นอะค่ะมันดีตรงที่ว่ามันจะได้ประสบการณ์นอกซิดนีย์ได้เขาอีก culture ได้หลายอย่างอะค่ะแล้วก็นอกซิดนีย์มันก็มีหลายอย่างที่น่าสนใจเหมือนกันค่ะแล้วก็อลิซก็คิดว่าถ้าจะทำอะค่ะก็ควรทำตอนยังอายุน้อยอะค่ะเพราะตอนนี้อลิซก็32แล้วตอนนี้ก็กลับมาซิดนีย์ได้แล้วก็ทำงานแถวนี้ได้แล้วก็แต่ว่าถ้าจะทำนอกซิดนีย์ถ้าจะทำนอกประเทศไปอินเตอร์อะค่ะก็ต้องคิดว่าต้องควรลุยตอนอายุแบบน้อยๆอะค่ะ
สำหรับผมตอนเข้าแพทย์ได้ข่าวว่าติดแพทย์ที่ ANU ที่แคนเบรารีบโทรหาแม่เลยตอนนั้นอยู่นิวเซาท์เวลส์อยู่นิวเซาท์เวลส์กำลังจะกลับบ้านได้อีเมลมาดีใจตัวเองดีใจมากโทรหาแม่ I got into medicine ดีใจที่ไหนลูกแคนเบราเหรอ แล้วก็ได้ข่าวจากเพื่อนคุณแม่ว่ารู้ไหมแม่ไม่อยากให้ไปเลยอยากให้อยู่ซิดนีย์แต่ก็เหมือนพี่อลิสก็ได้ประสบการณ์การที่ออกจากบ้านเป็นครั้งแรกที่ออกจากบ้านด้วยตัวเอง ไปเรียนหนังสือแล้วก็อยู่ในหอซึ่งมันเป็นประสบการณ์ที่แปลกที่ไม่เคยมีมาก่อน เราต้องเผชิญภัยหลายอย่างต้องทำหลายอย่างด้วยตนเองมันทำให้เราเป็นผู้ใหญ่มากขึ้นให้เรามีความสัมพันธ์กับคนอื่นมากขึ้นอันนั้นเป็นข้อดี
Yeah, the first time I moved away from my mum and dad was to live overseas, and mum, as she's here, can see, was very upset when I left. But luckily for her, COVID hit and I came home and ended up back living with them. And that was my first time moving out. So it was a big step to just not just move out of home, but move overseas and do a completely different job that wasn't nursing. I was working in the, so it was a nice new experience that I think if you want to live overseas, it's a great opportunity just to learn what other cultures are like and just what the rest of the world is like as well. And that actually, I think that helped mum in a way because I moved again this year to Jindabyne. And yeah, I really, yeah, I think it's a really good thing to, you know, try somewhere else because you might love it there. You know, I grew up in Sydney my whole life, didn't know anything different. And then working in a different area outside of Sydney has really allowed me to learn more about people and the world. Yeah.
And I feel like somewhere like where you are, Tanya, I guess it like gives you a real opportunity to make a difference as well, which is also really good.
Yeah, for sure. Especially with the vaccines right now. So trying to get the whole community, it's a small community, especially in summer, just trying to get everyone vaccinated and safe so we can feel safe here. We had 2 cases in Cooma the other day, which is 40 minutes away. And I think that really woke up everyone and made everyone feel a bit nervous and made me very nervous as well because we're such a small town. And yeah, I think I really, really love being in a smaller community. It's awesome. Yeah.
Anna, did you want to ask a question as well?
Tanya Silver-Brooks wants to ask question.
So hi guys. I have some questions that I desperately want to know. So I'm sitting my HSC in the next few weeks and I'm thinking of doing medicine for my degrees, but I don't think I'm going to get a good ATAR for that. So I did apply for early entries and I got a few backs. Those include nursing and medical science. So I would like to know what's the difference. Yeah, so I'd like to know what's the difference between nursing and medical science. What would be the best or good foundation degree for pre-medicine?
Yeah, I actually think both of them are good. One thing that's different about nursing, you actually do a lot of clinical placements. So you get to learn about how the hospital works, how to look after people, get those personal skills up, you know, because maybe not in medical, the other one you wanted to study, you don't get that opportunity as much. And I had a lot of friends in my cohort that went on to do medicine, and they said it was the best way for them to do it. They really, really appreciated having that background of nursing and also having, you know what nurses are like, know what that's like for the future. Sorry. No, I think I personally think it's a great opportunity, and you might not even want to leave nursing and just stay in nursing. I love nursing. It's a great place, but it does, I think it is actually a good way to push forward, I think, in my opinions, because you are learning similar things and getting into the hospital as a, you know, student nurse really, really does open up your knowledge and the personal skills. It's so important, just being able to understand what the hell's going on, and that can set you up for medicine really, really well, in my opinion. But I'll leave it to Joe.
Definitely. So I guess nursing has that practical aspect that Tanya talked about. In terms of medical science, which I did for my bachelor's and honors, it's really research driven. You're getting that scientific basis and that critical thinking in order to do medical research, and that's what they try to move you towards in terms of medical science. A lot of the professors there, they don't actually want you to become doctors. They want you to become medical researchers. So developing medicines, developing new microscopes to look at diseases, how we treat different diseases, and research in the hospital. But I found it as a very good theoretical basis for medicine, because when you go into medicine, a lot of the postgraduate degrees are now 4 years. So that means the first 2 years of the degree is preclinical, so it's all theory, and the last 2 years is clinical. In the 2 years, you're learning the entire medical science degree in maybe 6 months to 1 year, plus all the other aspects of medicine. So I think it was a very good foundation for me to learn medical science. But thinking back, it doesn't really give you a lot of practical experience like nursing. And a lot of my colleagues who are doctors now, like Tanya's friends, were nurses before. And I think having that experience and knowing how the hospital works really helps you to become a good doctor, because you know how the system works and how the different people interact within the team. And know what the role of a doctor is, what the role of a nurse is, and don't clash into each other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's important.
So it depends, to answer your question, it depends on what you want to do. If you want that practical experience, nursing, and if you just want to be a doctor in the hospital or GP, I think nursing would be good. If you want to pursue research later, even as a doctor, and nowadays a lot of specialties in medicine, all the surgical subspecialties and a lot of medical specialties like cardiology, the heart, neurology, the brain, they all require research as well when you're working. So that will give you a good foundation. Depends on what you want to do.
Sure, just a question. Are there many jobs out of medical research after you finish that degree? Is it a common job to be able to find, or is it pretty hard to get?
Yeah, so medical research, it's a very important field, but unfortunately there's not enough funding to have enough jobs, particularly in Australia. So it's quite hard to find jobs. And if you do find an opportunity, it's quite competitive. You need to have research experience in the past or know people who are doing research. So when you do medical science, you'll have some placements in research laboratories, and you can have connections to supervisors or research teams. So yeah, it is difficult, but there's always opportunities.
Yeah, I think that's why. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I think listening to both Joel and to Tanya, I guess to me and listening to all that, it makes me think that, you know, it's very good to keep going and have your goal and be able to move towards that, just as Joel did in going into one field and then transferring to the next. But I guess at all times you should always also perhaps think about having a backup. And when you're making that decision, maybe think about, okay, if you end up deciding you're not going to go into medicine, or you don't go into medicine, where else would you rather be? Where else would you want to be? Yeah. You know, do you want to do the research, as Joe's saying, or would you still want to be around, you know, the practical side of a hospital and take up nursing?
And you can always switch courses as well if you don't start doing one and you don't like it. you know, you can always transfer over. I had a lot of friends do that in their first year of uni. People that did business and they hated it, and then they started doing nursing instead, or even postgrad. Like one went to college, became a nurse instead, and he still incorporates all his art with his nursing. It's amazing what he does. So, you know, it never really ends at one course. If you don't like it, there's always so many other opportunities out there.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We're gonna wrap up and ask one last question from กิตติยานะคะเดี๋ยวขออนุญาตถามนะคะขอความเห็นจากรุ่นพี่ในกรณีที่เรียนจบ Year 12 แล้วเรียนต่อ TAFE เพื่อให้ได้ Certificate มาทำงานก่อนแล้วเรียนต่อ Diploma แล้วเรียนต่อ Bachelor ไปตามลำดับกรณีนี้แบบนี้มีข้อดีข้อเสียหรือมีความคิดเห็นอย่างไรคะ
I think it's I actually think it's a lot of great perspective and a lot of great experience. I find that a lot of the TAFE degrees and even the diplomas may focus on more of the practical side, and I find it very useful in like before you start going into a field. So I think it's also probably advantageous in your resume. You know, when employees see that you've done your TAFE study, you've done a diploma, and then you've done a bachelor, you're very dedicated towards this field, but you've also got that diverse background and different perspectives of learning about a particular field that I think that it actually is quite favorable for whatever you want to go into.
I have a friend and currently a colleague who's a doctor now, and at the time I think she only did year 10 and she didn't know what to do. She went into TAFE. I think she did hairdressing for a while and decided she was going to go into healthcare, so did a bachelor's of nursing, became a nurse for a few years and thought, oh, I want to be on the other side, make the decisions, then did a medical degree. So it's all endless. It's up to you what you want to make of your life. Nothing's set in stone. There are so many opportunities out there right now. You just have to find it out yourself. We can only advise you on our experiences and what we know, but ultimately it's up to you to go out there in the world, have a look at what other people have done, see what you like, what you want to do, what you want to bring to this world, and make that choice.
I think a big thing here is make sure you enjoy yourself and don't stress out too much about, things. There's so many different things you can do with your life. I love traveling and I've done that so many times. I recommend everyone give that a go, see the world. It doesn't have to end at uni. If you don't get your marks, you don't get your marks. You can always do something to get there, but enjoy yourself. That's really important.
I think that's really good. I just want to ask each of our BTCL alumni just to give one tip of advice, whether it's to do with study or making decisions or just living life. I'll ask each of you just to share one quick tip and we'll wrap up. So I'll give you a few moments. Everybody's thinking. One tip is hard because I'm sure that
I think I might have just said mine.
Yes, all right. Live your best life.
I'm with Tanya on that one, but I think whatever you do enjoy doing outside of your study, like try to keep doing it. There's a lot of things that, extracurriculars that you do in high school and university is great because there's a lot of clubs that there's probably more clubs and more extracurriculars. Get into it. There's a lot out there. I really enjoyed my time at university. I did a lot of extra activities and I was on campus a lot and I wasn't always studying there. You meet a lot of great people. You meet you know, you meet people from everywhere, people that are in different fields. I've got friends in all different fields at the moment that are in all, you know, corners of the world even. So yeah, keep doing things that you enjoy outside work, because at the end of the day, although what you're doing for work is important, you're not living to work. You know, you're working to live, and you're working to do everything else. I'm with Tanya. I love traveling. Cannot wait till the borders open up.
Yeah.
If you do that, even now, like even if you go to uni, try to do an exchange program overseas. You know, I regret that I didn't find the opportunities to do that, and I really wish I had done that now. So yeah, do everything you think about doing, have a look into it, research it now, and just do it.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. Well, that's why I moved down to Jindabyne so I can continue those hobbies.
I am so for clubs on campus. So when you go on your open day or when you start university, there's all these different niche groups of students. And I joined so many groups, but I was heavily involved in the Thai societies and the Buddhist societies. And you just make lifelong friends there. It's not just the studying, it's the connections you make with people, the activities you do, the community events you organize with your friends. And that's something I remember more from university than the lectures and the assignments, of course. I think what my key message would be goes back to when I was in high school, I think year 10, my science teacher, I was just talking about memorizing stuff, and she said, no, Kitty, we don't want you to memorize the periodic table. That's useless. I was talking to about something in Thailand, students memorizing all the elements on the periodic table. She's like, no. What's the point in that? You can easily go online and just search what the atomic number is and stuff. What we want to teach you is how to think and how to find the answers. And a lot of the time these days, we have the resources to find those answers. It's up to us to ask the right questions and to search for those answers ourselves. We don't need all the knowledge. We can't fit everything in our head. But if we have the skills to get those answers ourselves, then we're in a better position than other people.
For sure, very important. Tanya, did you want to add anything, or you classify that as your tip?
I think my mind just had a big blank. Yeah, I remember actually going to Thai society. Unfortunately, my campus was a little bit further away from main campus, and it's no nursing campus on its own. And I wish I actually involved myself more in those clubs, but the campuses just didn't let that happen in any way, shape, or form. And I remember doing things with you, Jacob. We had like Thai society dinners, so keep that connection to culture there. Yeah, traveling. I just love traveling. So I would go to Thailand on my uni breaks if I could. Even go there on the way to places, like went there on the way to Japan a few times and spent a few weeks on the way back. So keep that connection to culture there, because don't want to lose it. And I really, really cherish still having that there in my heart. Love that I went to Thai school and did all that Thai dancing stuff, and I'll never forget it. And I even show people to this day, oh, look at me doing this Thai dance, and see me, Joe, and your sister like doing corn and stuff like that. And they're like, oh, that's so cool. I would never thought that. So yeah,
I think that's really, really important. And I think it comes down, I think what I hope that everybody gained from today is that, one, you really need to be true to yourself. What do you like? What do you want to do? What do you want to achieve in this lifetime? It's not about just what you're doing in high school. All of our PP, they talked about the long goal. So having the goal, what does your life look like? Do you want to travel often? Do you want to help people? How do you want to help people? What are you good at? I like gaming. maybe you'll do, I don't know, software engineering. Whatever interests you have, continue to pursue them. And remember that if you don't get something on the first go, it's okay. Failure is so normal, and you will continue to see that in life. In the workplace, you might apply for, I'm not sure about PP, but I applied for so many jobs after university and I got knocked back so many times. And then I ended up getting the one here in Canberra. And for me, I see that this is what life had planned for me. I was meant to get this job and come to Canberra. So everything happens for a reason. Trust in yourself, in the decisions that you make. Yes, studying is important. I think everybody on our panelists here talked about being able to learn skills, everything, being able to apply skills, being able to communicate with people nowadays is so important. So remember that having, just having a holistic view of skills that you can gain, that you can use, that will help you. And remember, every experience is a good experience, even though it might have been a bad experience, but it will teach you whether you like something or whether you don't. That in of itself is still really good. So don't give up. In times of failure, pick yourself back up, give it a good go. I think for parents, I think just to help, ask your child, oh, how can I help you? And your child will hopefully tell you what they need. Pressure sometimes, especially now we're being in this online world, I think we just have to remember to be kind to one another. As Joe told us, we need to meditate more. We need to make sure that we find ways to calm ourselves. And don't forget our Thainess. We all here are very connected to our Thainess. We went to Thai school over 2 decades ago, but we still managed to keep using our Thai in our professions. We love the people that we've met across the way, all of our Thai friends, our international Thai friends that we met through clubs and societies. Obviously our Thai friends through Thai school, all of us are still connected in some way. And, just seeing everybody here has been really, at least for me, has been really heartwarming. And to see everybody's growth and progress, it just makes me really proud of all of our achievements that we've done as a collective. And I hope that we, in some way make the Thai community proud. We're trying to do our best. I believe we're good humans. And we're just trying to make this world a better place. So thank you to our panelists for sharing.
Angelica, can I just add something?
Yes, absolutely.
I just wanted to add, and one more thing that I would honestly really like all of you to do is thank your parents. The thing is that you're sitting here right now at school, looking towards university, thinking about what you want to study. A lot of our parents, a lot of us here now are first generation Australians, because of our parents, because they made this move to Australia and they didn't have the chance to, choose what they wanted to do, to sit there and study and then choose what they wanted to study at university, to develop a career. A lot of our parents here today moved to Australia and took the first job that they could find to provide for their families, to create this life that we have today. And I'm very thankful for that. And I really hope that everyone else is too. So thank you very much to all of the parents. I thank my parents for making that move as well. So,
yes, very much. Having gratitude is such a beautiful thing. And not forgetting our Thainess, I think, too, very much feeds into making our parents proud and being proud to be Thai. So very much echo the Alice's sentiments there. Speaking of Thainess, I'm going to hand it over to Bamem to talk more about wonderful BTCL activities.
ค่ะก็ขอบคุณมากสำหรับทุกคำถามนะคะแล้วก็คำตอบที่เป็นประโยชน์จากพี่ๆนะคะช่วงนี้อยากจะขอประชาสัมพันธ์เกี่ยวกับโรงเรียนสักนิดนึงนะคะโรงเรียนภาษาไทยวัดพุทธรังสีของเรานะคะปกติเราเปิดอยู่ที่ New South Wales School of Languages Petersham เราเปิดสอนภาษาไทยดนตรีไทยและนาฏศิลป์ไทยนะคะสำหรับเด็กอายุ5 ขวบขึ้นไปถ่ายรูปโปสเตอร์นี่ไว้ได้เลยค่ะและเรามีสอนภาษาไทยให้ชาวต่างชาตินะคะมี Adult Class ในเทอมหน้านี้เราจะเปิดเรียนในวันอาทิตย์ที่10 ตุลาคมนะคะจะเป็นการเรียนออนไลน์คาดว่าในเทอม1ของปีหน้าเราจะได้กลับไปเรียนที่โรงเรียนได้ตามปกติรายละเอียดก็ถ้าใครสนใจนะคะติดต่อเข้ามาได้ที่โรงเรียนได้เลยนะคะไม่ว่าจะเป็นอีเมลโทรศัพท์ทาง Facebook หรือว่าทางเพจของโรงเรียนนะคะเข้าไปดูกิจกรรมได้เลยนะคะในเว็บไซต์ขอกลับไปที่พี่ๆอีกครั้งนะคะจะอยากขอขอบคุณพี่เจก้าพี่อลิสพี่ธัญญาและพี่โจ้นะคะที่ได้มาร่วมกันสนทนานะคะแล้วก็ให้ความรู้ถ่ายทอดประสบการณ์ให้น้องๆนะคะแล้วก็ขอชื่นชมทุกๆคนสำหรับความสำเร็จที่มาถึงจุดนี้นะคะแล้วก็ยังให้เคล็ดลับกับผู้ปกครองด้วยในวันนี้ว่าเราจะสนับสนุนบุตรหลานเราได้อย่างไรต่อไปแล้วก็นอกจากนั้นเนี่ยวันนี้ก็ยังเป็นแรงบันดาลใจให้น้องๆด้วยไปสร้างความฝันของเขาให้เป็นจริงในอนาคตนะคะท้ายนี้ทีมงานของโรงเรียนภาษาไทยวัดพุทธรังสีขอขอบคุณทุกท่านมากๆนะคะที่เข้ามาร่วมฟังขอให้รักษาสุขภาพนะคะทุกๆคนแล้วก็เราพบกันใหม่ในเร็ววันนี้ค่ะขอบคุณค่ะสวัสดีค่ะ
ขอบคุณค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ